The future can be hard to predict, especially for those who have most of theirs ahead of them. But for a group of students gathered at the University of Maine in Orono, it might be a bit less blurry. For 28 years, one student from every Maine public high school has received a $10,000 college scholarship from the Mitchell Institute. And for its namesake, former Senator George Mitchell, the future of his Mitchell scholars can be found in his own life, which as of today has spanned 90 years.
I see in their eyes and in their voice and their manner reminders of myself at that time. I was 16 when I graduated from Waterville High School. Didn't have any prospects for going to college. I was very lucky that several people helped me along the way, and I'm reminded that people need an opportunity.
Mitchell made the most of his opportunities after growing up in the hard-scrabble Waterville neighborhood, known at the time as Head of Falls.
My parents never owned a car. They worked very hard. They lacked education, and they lived their entire lives on the edge of financial failure. But they had a dream, and the dream was that their children in America would have the chance to get an education and to improve their lives.
That dream would carry Mitchell from Bowdoin College to the military to Georgetown Law to working for Senator Edmund Muskie in Washington and on his campaigns. He would serve as state Democratic Party chair and run for governor in 1974 in a losing effort. 6 years later, he would be appointed to the U.S. Senate after a stint as U.S. attorney and a federal judge. But it was in 1988, when he became Senate Majority Leader, that Senator Mitchell cultivated his bipartisan reputation.
On the day that I was elected Senate Majority Leader, I called Bob Dole, who was the Republican leader in the Senate. I said, I've come to tell you how I intend to behave toward you, and I set out the most basic elements of fairness and decency, and I could see he was delighted. We didn't insult each other, we didn't demean each other, we didn't attack each other's person and personal history, and so it's possible to conduct politics in that way.
With all the polarization, all the rancor today, do you think that kind of a cooperation is still possible?
I don't have a magic formula for ending the rancor and hostility in American politics. I do have a belief, maybe it's a dream, that we go through cycles in our history, and this is not a permanent condition.
Mitchell's bipartisan work included the landmark Clean Air Act of 1990 and that year's tax compromise with President George H.W. Bush. But it was after Mitchell left the Senate in 1994 where he truly made his mark on the world. As the U.S. Special Envoy to Northern Ireland, Mitchell helped broker the Good Friday Agreement between its Catholic Republicans and Protestant Unionists, which ended the decades-long sectarian conflict known as the Troubles and ushered in a peace which continues to this day. But Mitchell says his proudest accomplishment was creating the Institute in 1995, giving opportunities to students from all four corners of Maine, all representing the camaraderie and culture he says motivated him to serve.
Those of us who've had the tremendous opportunity to live in Maine understand that the way to get ahead is not to push someone else down. The way to get ahead is to push yourself up. It's been the greatest honor of my life to represent the people of Maine in the Senate.
His appearances before the people, however, have become sparse since his diagnosis of leukemia in 2020. Chemotherapy may have limited him, but it has not limited his commitment to the Institute, which has given over $24 million to more than 3,600 students since its creation. With 90 years now in George Mitchell's rearview mirror, the future of his legacy lives and breathes in the young people of Maine who possess the grit and desire of a kid from Waterville who changed the world.
All the students here today, all the people that are here today, all of the Maine people that you've served and that you've met over the years, how would you like them to remember George Mitchell?
I tried my best to represent the people of Maine fairly and responsibly. And after leaving the Senate, I'm trying my best to see to it that every child in Maine has the same chance in life that I had.